The President, Akufo-Addo, has highlighted the contributions of the Ghanaian media to Ghana's democratic development and governance. Addressing journalists from across the world who had gathered at the Accra International Conference Center as part of activities to mark World Press Freedom Day, he noted the success of the Fourth Republic is largely attributable to the role of the media in ensuring accountability and development.
On 7th January this year, we celebrated the silver jubilee of our nation's Fourth Republic. It has proved to be the most enduring and most successful of the four republics of our history. Its constitution has enabled us to establish our state on sound democratic principles, grounded on the separation of powers. Though the constitution of the Fourth Republic guarantees freedom of expression, including freedom of the press and other media, as a fundamental human right, and makes elaborate provisions to protect the freedom and independence of the media, the existing laws, which were continued in force by the same Constitution, contained colonial laws on our statute books that were manifestly anti-libertarian and repressive of free speech. That is why, as Attorney General, under the government of the great Ghanaian statesman, His Excellency John Akufo-Addo, the second President of the Fourth Republic, I led the process in Parliament for the repeal of the criminal libel law. The repeal, when it occurred on 27 July 2001, was a very happy day for me, representing one of the high points of my public career. Even as one of the public figures most constantly vilified in sections of the Ghanaian media, and who ironically was a principal actor in the repeal of the law, I continued to insist that its repeal was necessary in the public interest in our emerging democracy. I will say again that I much prefer the noisy, boisterous, sometimes scurrilous media of today to the monotonous, praise-singing, sycophantic one of yesteryear. The Ghanaian media has, in fact, enriched the nation's governance by its curiosity, investigative skills, and persistence.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says the issuance of the much talked about Ghana card will begin by the end of this month. The National Identification System, which the President, Akufo-Addo's administration says forms parts of its core digitization of the economy, is expected to, among others, help in the collection and monitoring of data for tax collection. Government had earlier indicated the cards will be issued way back in April, but addressing congregants at the opening of the ceremony of the 43rd General Council meeting of the Church of Pentecost, Dr. Bawumia disclosed government is now hoping the cards will become available this month, reiterating it is critical to the achievement of the administration's objectives.
To build a Ghana beyond aid, we need to step up tax collection as the best way to mobilize enough resources to pay for health care, water, roads, build hospitals. This is why we are trying to put in some structures that will help us, keep better records of everybody in Ghana. Thankfully, after a long period, we've been trying to do a national ID card for a very long time, and we pushed the National Identification Authority to do this in good time. They've done a lot of work, and by the grace of God, this month in May, we will start issuing the national ID cards throughout the country. This will mean we will have a record of everybody, and this is where discipline begins. And this is very, very important. We've lacked this since independence.
Well, in other news, investigations have uncovered how the state-owned Metro Mass Transit Limited lost over 1 million Ghana cedis as a result of undervaluation of some 200 buses sold by the company. The buses were declared unserviceable and as a company policy were supposed to have been sold off as scrap. JoyNews, however, found out that the valuation process was compromised, and this has cost the company more than 1 million Ghana cedis due in revenue. Manasseh Azora-Awene has spent months tracking the valuation and sale of the vehicles and now brings the story.
In the office of the managing director of Metro Mass, an auctioneer who claims to have facilitated the sale of 18 unserviceable buses complains he has been shortchanged. He claims the buses were sold to people recommended by the board chairman, Ahmed Arthur, who also promised him 100 cedis on each of the buses. This is in addition to his fee for the auctioning. Mr. Arthur has denied any involvement in the sale of the buses, but that's not the only problem with the deal. In December 2016 and February 2017, the valuation department of the State Transport Company, STC, valued the 202 vehicles for Metro Mass. The total value was 1,397,000 cedis. In October 2017, the chairman of the committee mandated to oversee the disposal of the buses wrote to the managing director of Metro Mass, raising questions of inaccuracies in the valuation report. In that memo, he pointed out,
for instance, the valuation report would indicate that there is no engine in a particular bus. However, physical examination of the said bus reveals otherwise.
What this means is that with the engines and other parts, the value of the buses ought to have been higher than the 1,397,000 cedis. The committee made 3 suggestions to the managing director, Bennett Abwaji.
1. That the technical department is tasked to remove all parts which are not meant for scrapping from the boarded buses to tally with what the valuation report contains. 2. That all parts removed should be duly documented and received into stores. And 3, that as a committee, in view of the huge financial implications involved, we do not recommend the option of revaluation.
6 days after receiving this memo, Bennett Abwaji wrote to STC to revalue the buses. When JoyNews asked him why he called for the revaluation, he said the buses had no engines, but the valuation report said they had engines. When he produced the memo from his scraps committee, which falsified his claim, he said the revaluation was the best decision in the circumstances. Sources in Metro Mass say they expected the value of the buses to go up since it was confirmed that they had engines and other parts contrary to the earlier valuation report. When the revaluation was done, however, the value further fell by 85%, dropping from 1,397,000 to 373,800 cedis for all the 202 vehicles. I went to STC to find out whether it was true that the first valuation report was inaccurate, as the Metro Mass Scraps Committee complained. The head of valuation, E.E. Akon, defended the report, saying it was a reflection of what they had inspected. Apart from the Metro Mass Scraps Committee's findings, we also discovered that the condition of the 202 buses, as captured in the report, was the same, word for word. I pointed out to him that it was impossible to value 200 different buses and write a report that indicated that each one of them had exactly the same problem. At this point, he called one of his engineers, John Akajro, who admitted the valuation report was indeed compromised.
So they promised that they were going to scrap the buses, so I have to write it as they told me. So that's what I did.
So if I understand your explanation, your valuation report was based on what the officials told you and not what you found on the buses?
Yes.
Is that how you work? If I bring a car for you to value for me, do you value the car based on what you see? You have the technical eyes to see what is on it and quote the price, or you value it based on what I tell you?
No, it is not so. We value it according to the present condition of the vehicle.
When I asked why the value of the buses reduced drastically after the second valuation, the STC evaluation team said time had elapsed.
Vehicles depreciate, so whatever you do, there's some time, or even from the day one, it starts depreciating. That is why you see the values falling drastically.
They also said the engines and other parts were removed from the buses before the second valuation. Sources in Metro Mass, however, say that statement is false. According to insiders, the buses were sold cheaply to persons linked to some management and board members, who then resold them at higher prices, and the margins were shared. The MD, Bennett Abuaji, and the board chairman, Ahmed Arthur, have denied any wrongdoing in the deal. But JoyNews has evidence that the valuation of the buses was compromised, and the company appears to have lost at least 1 million cedis in this transaction.
And Manasseh Azuria will bring you more in subsequent reports. Some illegal drugs, including 4,200 tablets of the unapproved tramadol tablets, have been confiscated and destroyed by the upper region of the Food and Drugs Authority. According to the Upper East Regional Director of the FDA, Zakaria Brahima, the two persons suspected to be the main distributors of tramadol to chemical sellers in the region have also been arrested and are helping police in investigations. Upper East Region correspondent Albert Sorry has more.
Briefing journalists in his office before the confiscated illegal drugs were destroyed, Upper East Regional Director of the FDA, Zakaria Brahima, said most of the unapproved tramadol coming into the Upper East region is brought in by people from neighboring countries who sneak into Ghana illegally through unapproved routes.
We have launched a war on tramadol, the usage of tramadol, the distribution of tramadol across the country. And we in the Upper East region, we have intensified our monitoring activities to ensure that tramadol doesn't come into the region, because we know that our region is surrounded by two countries. We have the Togo and Burkina Faso. And most of the soups that are organized, we realize that these drugs are rather coming from these countries, the drug peddlers, these Nigerians, and who come in doing other menial jobs. They bring in these drugs.
He added that two men suspected to be distributors of the unapproved painkiller have also been arrested.
And during our monitoring activities, we got wind of two guys who are noted for the distribution of tramadol. They go to Sankasi, buy this tramadol, and then they come and distribute them to some chemical sellers. We trace them to Wali Wali, and then together with the police, we've been able to apprehend them, and then we pick them up. They are currently under police investigation at Wali Wali.
The confiscated drugs were taken to a landfill site at Shirigu in the outskirts of Bolgatanga and destroyed by setting fire on them. Mr. Brahma told JoyNews the fight against unapproved tramadol and other illegal drugs in the Upper East region will continue.
About 90% and above of the shops that we have been visited. But that doesn't mean that maybe perhaps they will not have new stock. So we continue to monitor them day and night to ensure that nobody brings them. We are carrying the education to schools, the second cycle institutions. We are carrying the education. They have just resumed, and then we are going to educate them, all the schools. We have drawn a schedule. We are in dialogue with the school authorities where we'll go and educate the youth there so that they will avoid the use of tramadol.
For JoyNews, Albert Sorry, reporting from Bolgatanga.
And that's it for the news. We'll review the newspapers, look at myjoyonline.com and the other online portals. Myself, Mamavi Osabwaji, we're celebrating World Press Freedom Day as always, but we just want to remind you that we'll have some great discussions. We'll have Fritz Bafo, who is a former Minister of Information, former Member of Parliament, and also a media practitioner in the studio. We'll also discuss some of the difficulties we as practitioners in the media tend to face. and why we tend to have all the difficulties we have, for example, in accessing information and sometimes doing our work. Stay. We'll be right back.